Okay, so yesterday we talked about, hey, here's the two endpoints of a segment, find me the midpoint. And we found that by adding the x's together divided by 2, add the y's together divided by 2, and we got the coordinate for our midpoint. Today, I'm going to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to start by asking you a question. So here's what's going on in this scenario. M is the midpoint of, let me just live right back in, segment AB. All right, great. So I have some segment AB and M is the midpoint of it. Okay, fine. Now watch this. If M is located at, we're going to have it at 2, 4, and A is at 10, 8, where is B? So the question is different than yesterday. You are not simply going to add the x's together, divide by 2, add the y's together, divide by 2. That would get you something that's not the midpoint or the other endpoint at all. Think about what's going on here. I'm trying to figure out, I already know where the midpoint is. I know it's at 2, 4. One endpoint is at 10, 8. I want to figure out where the other one is. I'm going to give you a minute to see if you can come up with a way to answer this. Try it. If you think you have an answer, send it to me in the chat, or if you're in class, just say it out loud and I'll let you know if you're correct or not. I'll give you a hint, I guess. You do already know how to answer this because you can use the same formula that we used yesterday. You just have different bits of information now. Does anybody have a guess? One thing that might be helpful is if we kind of try and sketch this. Let's sort of just see what's going on. If I'm not even going to do it precisely, but I'm just to give myself an idea. So if I have a coordinate plane, right? And I have A is at 10, 8. So it's way out here. So here's A at 10, 8, right? 10 over 8 up. And then I have M is at 2, 4. 2, 4. So I don't know, maybe about there-ish. So here's M at 2, 4. So think about what I'm trying to do here. M is the midpoint. So what I have to do, here's A to M, and that's halfway. That means I need to keep going, and B is going to land somewhere over here. I don't know exactly where, but it's going to be somewhere kind of in that region. That's what's going on here. So if you just take if you just do exactly what we did yesterday, you're going to get another point that's right here, halfway in between M and A, but that's not what we're looking for at all. I'm trying to figure out where B is. I already know that this is the midpoint of the segment. So if I have part of the segment going this way, the rest of it has to go this way if that's going to be the middle, right? So that's helpful to sort of map it out to know, okay, so if I got a number like, you know, I don't know, if you got, what would it be, 6,6, if you had added these together and divided by 2, that doesn't make any sense because I know my answer's got to be somewhere back here if this whole thing's going to work. If M really is going to be the midpoint and A is there, that means B's got to be over here. All right, so I did tell you that you already know how to do this. You do. We're going to use the same exact formulas that we used yesterday. We just have different information to plug in. So yesterday I showed you that x of the midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2. I'm going to do the same exact thing. It's just that I don't have x1 and x2 right now. Here's what I have. Let's investigate. If I go back and I read, M is the midpoint. So this coordinate, 2, 4, is X mid and Y mid. That's what I have. That's different from yesterday. So this is X of the midpoint, and this is Y of the midpoint. I have those two numbers now. And then A, I'll just call my first point, B is my second point. So A, if this is my first point, you're X1, you're Y1. It's X2 and Y2 that I don't have. But I can solve for them because I have everything else I need. So watch this. If I just take this formula and I plug in all the pieces I have, X of the midpoint, we just said was 2. So I put a 2 there. Let's see. X1, that's 10. X2 is what I don't know, so that just stays X2, and I'm always dividing by 2. You now have an equation that you can solve. I don't know if you remember how to. Let's talk about that. So let's zoom in right here. You have this equation. You're trying to solve for X. Remember, that little 2 right there really doesn't even mean anything. It's just referring to the X value of my second point. That's all. So I want to get that by itself. Does anybody know what I would do first to try and solve for X? What is the very first step that you would do here? You can send it to me in the chat. You can unmute yourself and tell me. Think back to algebra. What would you do first?
Divided, like figure out what 10 plus x is. So then you put 10x divided by 2.
So you're on the right track. You basically have to work backwards, right? I need to try and get this. Let's rewind actually a little bit even further. Rewind. If I gave you an equation like this, 2x plus 3 equals 6. Right? I want to get the x by itself, don't I? So I start by subtracting 3, and then I divide by 2. I want to do the same thing here. I want to get the x by itself, so I'm going to have to get rid of these numbers. I have to get rid of the 10, and I have to get rid of the 2. Just like over here, it matters what order I do that in, right? I always would subtract the 3 first, and then I would divide by the 2. So the same thing's going on over here. I have this 10 and this 2, and I have to get rid of each of them one at a time, but I have to do it in the right order. So what is the right order? Great question. Well, you're going to start by multiplying both sides by 2. Why? What? That's so random. Why would you do that? It's actually not random at all. Think about what's going on here. You have a division bar, so that means all of this upstairs, you don't have to put these parentheses, but there really are parentheses there. That whole thing is in a group. I can't get rid of that 10 until this 2 is gone. It's kind of stuck there together. So I need to undo dividing by 2. The only way to reverse that process of dividing by 2 is to now multiply by 2. right? I want to do the opposite operation. Just when I had 2x plus 3, I minus 3 from both sides. I do the opposite operation. So the same thing happens here. So to get rid of this dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply u by 2, and I'm going to multiply u by 2. Watch what happens when you do that. On the left, obviously that's just 4. 2 times 2 is 4. No big deal. But look what happens on the right-hand side. These two 2's cancel out. And look what's left. It's just 10 plus x2. And now I'm so close to the answer because all I have to do now is bless you.
Thank you.
What do I do now? It's way less painful if you just tell me. Yes, subtract 10 from both sides. Thank you. Right? I'm just trying to get that x by itself. So let's minus that 10. 4 minus 10 is just a negative 6. You have the first part of your answer. You now know where the x coordinate is. It's at negative 6 comma something. So now I do the same thing with the y's, but I'm going to do the exact same process. Everything is exactly the same. So I'll start by multiplying both sides by 2, and then I'll just get the y by itself. So let's see. Can I sneak this in right here? I think so. So I'm going to do the y's right here. So for y of the midpoint, same thing. y1 plus y2 over 2. Let's fill in everything we know. I'm going to zoom in over here. So y of the midpoint, according to what I have up here, is 4. y1 is 8, as we have labeled right here. That's 8. I don't know what y2 is, but I'm going to divide the whole thing by 2. So just like I did for the x's, I'm going to do for the y's. Start by multiplying both sides by 2, and then subtract the 8 over. Okay, take a minute, get your answer here. I would like you to send me your answer when you've got it. What is the answer for y? If you are in class, don't say it out loud yet. But Lily, Michael, Tom, Jeremy, Lorenzo, Ryan, I'd love to see you send me your answer in the chat. What is your value for y? Oh, Tom's got it. I need some more answers, people. I need to know you know how to do this. Give it a shot, even if you're wrong. If you're wrong, that gives me more information too. Oh, Michael's got it. Good. All right, my kids in class, what'd you get? Jeremy's got it. Guys in class, what'd you get? Anybody? Tell me what you got. Be confident. I bet you got it right. And again, even if you got it wrong, that tells me something. Because then I know how to help you not make the same mistake. Nothing from you three? Come on. Well, I'm going to start the same exact way. I want to get this y by itself. I have to undo dividing by 2. So the very first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2. So I times u by 2, I times u by 2. I get 8 equals 8 plus y2. Then all I have to do is subtract 8 from both sides. It just so happens that this one ends up being 0. Don't think you're wrong because you get 0. 0 is a number like anybody else. You have the answer now. Now you know where B is. So B is at -6, 0. Let me look back at my little sketch and see if that makes sense. If B is going to be at -6, 0. Hey, yeah, look, -6, 0. That looks totally plausible. There's where B is. And that makes sense. Wow. All right, we're going to try another one. Okay, again, M is the midpoint. Okay, M is the midpoint of AB again. All right, so let's try this. If A is at, where's A this time? -8, -3, and M is at -1, 6, where is B? So same thing, but be careful. This time I gave you the coordinates for A first and then M. So make sure that you know who's X and Y of the midpoint and who's X and Y of point 1. Because it makes a big difference. How are you supposed to know? Right here. I told you that M is the midpoint. So wherever I give you the coordinates for M, -1, 6, that's the X and Y of the midpoint. So I'm going to label that right now before I forget. This is X of my midpoint. I'm just going to put an M there because it's too messy to write mid. And this is Y of my midpoint. So point A is just my first endpoint. So I'm going to call this X1, Y1. Awesome. Now I'm ready to do it. Go ahead, try it. Start by just getting your answer for X. Let's make sure that we get that part right, and then we'll try Y. So everybody go ahead and get your answer for X. You're doing the exact same thing that we did. I'll even write the formula for you again down here. Why not? X of the midpoint is going to be equal to X1 plus X2 all over 2. So you're filling in those pieces and solving. Feel free to send me your answer when you've got it. Does anybody have an answer for X yet? Where must X2 be? What's its number? Does anybody have it yet? All right, looks like I'm gonna have to call on some people at random. Let me get your popsicle sticks here. All right, I'm gonna have people walk me through this, okay? Let's see. Evan, can you tell me what X of the midpoint is from this problem? What number is X of the midpoint?
4? -4? I don't know.
Oh, are you looking at this number?
Yeah.
It's a -1.
Oh.
I could see how it looks like a -4. Yeah, it's just a -1, but you're right. So -1's going to go right there. And now I need X1 plus X2. So let's see if I can get this all in here. So what is X1, Ryan? Just tell me the value of X1. You have the right answer in the chat, by the way, Ryan, but tell me what X1 is.
Is it -8?
It is -8. Thank you. -8 plus X2 is the one that I don't know. So that one's going to stay in there, and then I'm always going to divide by 2. Okay, great. Now you can kind of forget all the rest of this and just focus on our equation here. All right, so now I'm here. What do I do now, Jeremy? What's the next step? Jeremy, I heard. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Divide by 2.
You're close. You want to do the opposite of that, though. You don't want to divide. You want to.
Multiply.
Yeah, you're going to multiply both sides by 2. And that's how you get these 2 to cancel, right? So those are gone. 2 times -1 is now -2 equals -8 plus X2. All right, perfect. And now all I have to do to finish, I'm just going to add 8 in this case to get the X by itself. So add 8, I end up with 6. So if you got 6 for this first value, you are correct. That's half of our answer. So B is going to be at 6 comma something. We just need to figure out what the something is. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the Y's. See if I can fit it all right here. So Y of the midpoint is going to be equal to Y1 plus Y2 all over 2. Okay, so what is Y of the midpoint, Marissa?
-2. Wait.
I just want what number would go right here. Y of the midpoint.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Six?
Yeah, 6, right? So in my original, Y of the midpoint is 6. So I'm going to put a 6 there. And now I need Y1 plus Y2. So what is Y1, Michael? What's the value of Y1?
Y1 is -1.
Look back at your original problem. What does it say Y1 is?
-3.
Yes, there it is. Y1 is -3. So that's what goes here. y2, I don't know what that is, so that just stays y2. I'm always dividing by 2. All right, now let's zoom in because we don't really care about the rest of this. We just care about solving this equation. What do I do now? Tom, what do I do from this step? Oh dear. Okay, so all we are trying to do is solve for y2, just like we did in this problem right here, where we solve for x, right? So the only way to get rid of dividing by 2 is to multiply both sides by 2. See how we did that? We multiplied this side by 2 and this side by 2. So I'm going to do the exact same thing right here. So I'm going to multiply this side by 2, and I'm going to multiply this side by 2. 2 times 6 is just 12. Here, those 2's cancel. That's the whole point. And now I'm just left with -3 plus y2. So now I can pretty easily solve for y2. Zoe's not here. Lily, can you, I know your mic's not working. Can you type to me what you do to get y2? Or give me my answer for y2 is, I guess, what I really want. $15 is correct. All I got to do is add 3 to both sides. And I've got y2 by itself. And I'm basically done. All you have to do is put your answer together as an ordered pair. So you would write 6 comma 15 is, I don't know where B is. Cool. All right. Gosh. I worry about telling you this, but there is a shortcut. Dare I tell you? I don't think I will tell you. I'll let you know that there is one and see if you can figure it out. So let me, you know what? Let me give you another one where I don't give you all of this, and I'll show you how fast you can get the answer. All right, check this out. And then I'll have you see if you can figure out how to do it. And if someone comes up with it, then we'll share it. Oh. All right, so here we go. M is the midpoint of AB. Okay. But I need to know who's the midpoint, right? Because if I don't know which of the 3 is the midpoint, then I'm going to have a problem. So again, M is the midpoint. All right, so let's see. This time I'm going to give you M first. If M is at -1, 7 and A is at 10 comma 2 in this case, where is B? So here's the new problem. I can get this answer. Let's see how quickly. I know it's going to be at -12, comma, let's see, +12. What? How? Can you figure out how I did that so quickly? What am I doing? Share with me your thought when you think you've got it. Once you think you have a way, try on one of the other ones that we did all the work out on and see if your way works there. By the way, it's a shortcut because it makes sense. It's not like, just a random happenstance that the numbers sort of work out this way. The shortcut will work every single time because it's not really a shortcut. I guess I'm using that word incorrectly. It's once you realize something about these numbers, it just makes sense. It might be helpful if you think about, I'm going to sketch this out again. So I actually think it's easier to sort of make sense of this on a coordinate plane. So if I have my first point, let's see, what do I have? A is at 10, 2. So A is way over here. And then where was M? M is at -1, 7. -1, 7. So somewhere up here is M. So I know I'm going from the endpoint to the midpoint, and then I'm going to keep going. So I know my answer is somewhere over here. But how am I getting those numbers? If you got away, let me know. So A was at 10, 2. M, we said, was at -1, 7. And I gave you the answer. It is at -12, 12. But how could I have gotten those numbers so quickly? Anybody have a thought? Okay, I'll give you a hint. You want to think about if I'm starting at A and I'm going to M, don't I have to now go from M and get to B? How? How did you get from here to here? And then don't you need to do the same thing to get from here to here? Maybe we don't like the shortcut. Maybe you guys just want to write it out the whole time, which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay, well, I will share this with you. Don't use it if you don't like it. If you would rather write them out and we're doing well writing them out and this is just confusing to you, then fine, ignore it. But it does make sense because I'm starting at the endpoint and I need to get to the midpoint. Whatever I do to get from here to here is going to match whatever I have to do to get from here to here, because that really is my halfway point, right? If I have to walk 5 meters to get from A to M, then I got to walk 5 more meters to get from M to B, for example, right? So what I need to do is I just need to figure out what those instructions are. And always, you got to keep X's and Y's separate. So let's just look at the X's. You started at 10, and then you drop down to 1. How do you do that? How do you go from 10 all the way down to 1? You subtract 11. Those are the directions. To get from 10 all the way down to -1, I have to subtract 11. So I just do the exact same thing. Look, -1 minus 11, look where I end up. -12. So all I really have to do is figure out how do I get from now be careful, you have to go from the end point to the midpoint. And then I'm going to do it again from the midpoint all the way back to the second endpoint. So in this case with the X's, I was subtracting 11. Now I do the same thing with the Y's. So let's see, I was at 2, and then I got up to 7. Well, how do I get from 2 up to 7? I add 5. So I have to do the same thing to get from M all the way up to where B is. So notice that 7 plus 5, that's how I land on 12. So you can't mess this up though. You have to always start at the end point and go to the midpoint. Those are your sets of directions. How am I getting from A to M? And then I repeat it from M to get to B. Oh, tricky. Let's see if this works with the other ones that we did. Okay, let's look. So if I'm looking back at this one, right? So pretend I don't know what the answer is. Let me just zoom in. I'm just going to look at my X1s and my X of the midpoints. So I always, it doesn't matter which information they give me first. I need to know who's X1 and I need to know who's XM. So I have to start at the end point and go to the midpoint. So I was at -8 and I got up to -1. How do you do that? How do you go from -8 to -1? You add 7. Right? To get from -8 up to -1, I add 7. So now I add 7 more. So if I take -1 and I add 7, don't I get 6? I'm just going to jot my answer down over here. So it's going to be at 6 comma, and now let's try it for the Y's. Always start at the end point and then go to the midpoint. So I was at -3 and I got up to 6. How do you go from -3 all the way up to 6? You have to add 9. So now I need to do the same thing. I'm at 6 and I have to add 9. I get to 15. I'm claiming that the answer is going to be at 6 comma 15. What do you know? It was at 6 comma 15. Nuh-uh. Yeah, let's try it with this one also and make sure. Because I'm still a little like, this seems weird. As long as you know what point is the midpoint and what point is the first endpoint, you can always find the second endpoint. It is helpful to label then, I'm telling you, so that you don't mix it up. So let's see. I have to start at the endpoint. That's the crucial step. You have to start at the endpoint, X1, and figure out how you're getting to the midpoint. So let's see. To get from 10 to 2, I subtracted 8, right? This one I'm subtracting 8 to get from 10 to 2 minus 8. So I'm going to minus 8 again. 2 minus 8 gets me -6. So I'm just going to jot my answer over here so I don't forget it. -6 comma something. Let's see what's going on with the Y's. So Y's, I'm starting at 8 and I'm getting to 4. So to get from 8 down to 4, I'm going to subtract 4. I'm going to subtract 4 again. So I get to 0. So I say that my answer is at -60. Was it? Oh my gosh. That's so cool. I know. Here, I'll give you one to try where I don't give you the answers. So again, M is the midpoint of AB. Okay, let's do this. How about this time I'll tell you A is at 4, -2, and M is at, I don't know, 6, -5. Where's B? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you couldn't see the whole thing. There you go. Try this one. Send me your answer when you get it. Be careful. And if you don't like my little shortcut, don't use it. Write it out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you writing out your answers here. In fact, if you're getting them wrong, I'm going to make you write them out. Send me your answer when you get it. Oh, sorry, Ryan, that wasn't to you. I hate that this thing automatically, like whoever sent you the last message, it just goes to. So Ryan, ignore that. Oh gosh. Let me. Who did I mean to send that to? Oh. All right, now Ryan, let me see if yours is right. What should the answer be? Okay, I think maybe maybe we need to do some more examples. All right, so let's rewind. Okay, everybody watch. Everybody pay attention. You with me? You watching? Gotta watch. Everybody watch. So here's super important. You have to make sure you know who's X and Y of the midpoint and who's X and Y of your first endpoint. A is an endpoint, right? So this is X1, Y1. The M is my midpoint. So this is X of the midpoint, Y the midpoint. All right. And now to correctly do the shortcut, you have to start at the first endpoint here at 4. And I'm going to the midpoint. Sometimes they're going to give you the midpoint first and they're going to give you the endpoint here. So it's not always just you got to make sure that you're paying attention, right? So you got to know which point corresponds to the midpoint, which point corresponds to the endpoint. I have to go from the endpoint 4 to the midpoint 6. To do that, I'm going to add 2, right? To get from 4 to 6, I add 2. So to get to B, I have to add 2 more. So B is going to be add 2 more, I get up to 8. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for the Y's. I was at -2 and I went down to -5. How do you do that? You subtract 3. To get from 2 down to -5, I subtract 3. So now I need to subtract 3 more from the midpoint, right? I went from the endpoint to the midpoint. Now I got to go from the midpoint to point B. So I'm at -5. I got to subtract 3 more. I actually get down to -8. Do you see that? If you don't like this, you can do it the longer way where we write it all out. That's 100% fine. If you're like, you know what, I don't want to mess this up, let me just do it the way that we did it a few minutes ago, that's totally fine. Let me give you one more to try. Okay, is everybody all right so far? All right, try this. I mean, go to a new page. Again, M is the midpoint. Yeah. M is the midpoint of AB. Okay, this time, let's try this. M is at 0, 6. And A is at -2, 1. Where's B? Okay, my camera has frozen, but you can still see the numbers. M is at 0, 6, A is at -2, 1. We're trying to figure out where B is. Send me your answers when you think you've got them. I guess I should get the answer too. Let me see. What am I doing here? Please notice I did switch the order this time. This time I'm giving you the ordered pair for the midpoint first. Choo! Choo! Ooh. If you're in class and you want to call out, you can. Marissa, I saw that you joined the chat. You're welcome to send it to me or call it out. Either way. All right, I'm going to reset the camera so I can draw on this again, but hopefully you have these numbers. M is at 0, 6. A is at -2, 1. All right, let me reset. All right, so crucial step. You have to figure out who's the midpoint and who's the endpoint. M is the midpoint. So this is X of the midpoint. This is Y of the midpoint. So that means you're X1 and you're Y1. That's a crucial step. Now you have to ask yourself, how are you going from the endpoint to the midpoint? So I always start at X1 and I am asking myself, how do I get up to the midpoint? In this case, I'm at -2 and I have to get up to 0. So to get from -2 up to 0, don't I add 2? So I need to add 2 again. So 0 plus 2 means that B is going to start at +2. Right? Because I need to go up 2, so I'm going to go up 2 more, so I get to +2. Now let's do the same thing. I'm starting at Y1. How do I get to Y of the midpoint? I was at 1, I got to 6, so I went up by 5. I'm going to go up by 5 more. That's going to land me at 11. By the way, you can always check your answer when you're done, because A and B, you should be able to add these two together and divide by 2, add these two together and divide by 2, and it should spit this number right back out. So that's a nice, easy way to quadruple check that you're right. Add A and B together and divide by 2 and see if it really is the midpoint that's given. Okay? All right, so let me show you the homework, though I have a feeling some of you are already working on it. All right, let me grab this here. B block. Okay, now listen. It's not that I'm trying to trick you here. It's that I want to start getting you ready for your test on Thursday. It's one thing when if I just do one skill and you just practice that one skill. But what happens when I put more than one skill together, right? You need to know what to do when. So I did throw on a few questions, the midpoint formula ones, these ones. This is just like you did yesterday. So this is where you're just adding the x's, dividing by 2, adding the y's, dividing by 2. This is just like last night's homework. Because I don't want you to forget how to do everything that we did yesterday. So these are still in there. Add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. So, I mean, you're probably pretty good at doing these in your head by now. So that's 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. And then let's see, 2 plus -7 is -5. Take half of that, -2.5. Don't forget to always put your answer in parentheses. And that looks good. Now, when you get to the second section here, find the endpoint from the midpoint. That's what we've been doing today. All right? So be careful. They're going to do it just like we did it. They're going to give you a midpoint. There it is. And then they also give you one of the endpoints. And I think they always give you A, but whatever. So we're trying to figure out where B is. So what do I need to do? I'm going to zoom in here. If you're doing the shortcut, well, I say shortcut. It's not really. It's solid math. How am I getting from the endpoint A back to the midpoint? So let's see. I'm at 4 and I'm getting down to -1. The only way to get from 4 all the way down to -1 is if I subtract 5. Subtract 5. So now I need to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take -1 and I'm going to subtract 5. -1 minus 5 leaves me at -6. Then I do the same thing with the y's. Let's see. I was at -3 and I got down to -5. So I subtracted 2. Guess what? I need to subtract 2 more then. So I'm going to land at -7. There's my answer. Yes. I'll do one more. Okay, let's see. I'm at A and I'm going back to M. So I'm at -1, but I got up to +1. So how do I get from -1 up to +1? I add 2. So I'm going to add 2 more. 1 plus 2 is at 3. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then for the y's, let's see. I started at 5. I went down to 3, so I subtracted 2. I need to subtract 2 again. 3 minus 2 is 1. See how this works? You have to start at A and go back to M. And then I do that same, that's where I get the set of instructions from. Then I just do it again to get from M to B. And there is my answer. Don't forget, I probably should have checked this first, but I forgot about it. You can always double check. Add your A and B together. Add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2, and see if it really does spit out the midpoint. See, they have the nice visual shown where you're doing the exact same thing that we talked about. Okay? All right. So anyway, your homework is live for you on Delta. Let me stop this.